Hello, and welcome to the English Channel, a simple space for curious minds and growing English skills.
Welcome, curious learners, to another deep dive. I'm your host, and joining me today is our expert guide.
Hello. Great to be here.
Today we're tackling something really practical, really essential if you're planning a trip to the United States, or even if you're already here and navigating things.
Absolutely. We're talking about the unspoken language of American travel.
Exactly. It's more than just knowing words like hello or thank you. We're diving deep into those subtle cultural cues, the way language is actually used, the things that can make your trip smoother, richer, and just less confusing.
Right. Because understanding this stuff can genuinely prevent awkward moments, maybe even embarrassment. It helps you connect better, feel more comfortable.
Think of this deep dive as your shortcut, really. A way to feel confident, informed, and truly at ease navigating common situations.
That's the goal. We want to equip you with the tools, the phrases, the cultural insights, so you can handle things confidently, from ordering food to understanding tipping to, just chatting with people.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Where should we start? Maybe the most universal travel experience. Eating out.
Perfect starting point. Everyone eats, right? So you walk into a restaurant in the U.S., what happens first?
You're probably hungry, maybe a little unsure. What's the first interaction likely to be?
Well, often someone at the entrance, the host or hostess, will greet you and ask something like, "How many?"
Meaning how many people in your group?
Exactly. And a simple, polite answer is key. You can just say, "A table for two, please," or "four, please," or even, "We're a party of three." Straightforward.
What if it looks really busy? Maybe you need to know if there's even space or how long you might have to wait.
Good point. You can ask, do you have any tables available right now? Or more specifically, what's the wait time for a table for two? Or how long is the wait for four?
Okay, so you get seated, the menu arrives, sometimes it's overwhelming, or maybe you just want a local suggestion. How do you ask for help choosing?
The easiest way is just, do you have any recommendations? Servers usually know the menu well. Maybe there are specials.
And they might ask you something back.
Yeah, they might say, are you looking for anything in particular? Or what kind of food do you like? If you're open, you can say, not really, what's popular? Or what are your favorites?
This is super helpful. Now, something really important these days, dietary needs, allergies, preferences. How do you communicate that clearly?
Crucial. You need to be direct but polite. For preferences, are there any vegetarian options? Or do you have any vegan dishes? Most places do, or can adapt something.
And for allergies, that feels even more critical.
Absolutely. Be very clear. I'm allergic to nuts. Are there any nuts in this dish?
Right.
Or I have a gluten allergy. Do you offer gluten-free options? Sometimes I'll have a separate gluten-free menu. Don't hesitate to ask. Restaurants are very used to this. You can also look for symbols on the menu, like V for vegetarian or GF for gluten-free.
Okay, here's something I find fascinating about U.S. dining, the customization culture. It seems like you can ask for anything to be changed on your order.
Oh, totally. It's very, very common. People change things all the time.
So how do you do that smoothly? Like, say you want a burger but hate onions.
You just ask, can I get the cheeseburger but hold the onions? That phrase, hold the, is super common. It just means don't include it.
Hold the onions, hold the tomato, hold the mayo.
Exactly. Or you can say, can I get the cheeseburger without onions? Or could I substitute fries for a side salad? They might charge a little extra for a substitution sometimes, but asking is completely normal. Don't feel like you're being difficult.
Good to know.
Yeah.
And then the portions. American portions are famously generous.
Yes. Gigantic is often the word. It's very likely you won't finish your meal.
So what do? Just leave half a plate of food?
No, definitely not. It's incredibly standard practice to ask for a to-go box, or sometimes people call it a dotty bag, though to-go box is more common now.
So you just ask, can I get a to-go box for this?
Yep. Could we get a box for this, please? Sometimes the server will bring the box to your table and you pack it yourself. Other times, especially maybe in slightly nicer places, they might offer to box it up for you in the kitchen. Either way, it's expected and totally fine. Reduces food waste, gives you lunch tomorrow.
Okay, meal's finished, leftovers are boxed, time for the bill. Now, I've seen movies where someone just shouts, check, please, across the restaurant. Please tell me that's not how it's done.
Oh, please don't do that. Yeah, that's a movie thing. It comes across as really abrupt, maybe even rude in real life.
So what's the polite way? Do you wait for them to bring it? Or do you need to signal?
You can try to catch the server's eye when they walk past. If they don't notice or if you're ready to leave, just politely say, excuse me, could we get the check, please? Adding a thanks is always good.
Much better. Could we get the chef, please? Thanks. Got it.
Simple, polite, effective.
All right, that covers a lot for restaurants. Let's switch gears. Say you've eaten, now you want to do some shopping, maybe pick up souvenirs, maybe just browse.
Okay, shopping. Another common scenario. You walk into a store.
And almost immediately, someone working there often approaches you. That's right. Can I help you find anything? Or something similar.
Yes, that's very standard customer service in the US. They're trying to be helpful.
But what if you just want to look around on your own? It can feel a bit pressured sometimes.
It can, but there's a standard, easy response. Just smile and say, I'm just looking, thanks. Or even shorter, just looking. They'll usually understand and give you space.
Okay, just looking, thanks. Easy
Yeah.
enough. And if you were looking for something specific,
Then you tell them, actually, yes, I'm looking for some souvenirs. Or, do you have any local chocolate? Or maybe more specific, I'm trying to find a blue sweater. They can point you in the right direction.
makes sense. What about trying clothes on?
If you find something you like, just ask an employee, can I try this on? Or, where are the dressing rooms? Or fitting rooms? They'll direct you.
Simple enough. Now, payment. We mentioned restaurants are mostly card-friendly. Is it the same for shops?
Pretty much, yes. Credit cards and debit cards are very widely accepted. Even small shops, those little mom and pop places often take cards now.
Any exceptions?
Sometimes very small businesses or maybe vendors at a market might have a minimum purchase amount for using a card, like maybe $5 or $10. That's because they have to pay a fee for each transaction.
And what if a place really is cash only? It happens sometimes, right?
It's rarer now, but yeah, it can happen. If you don't have cash, the first thing to ask is there an ATM nearby?
ATM, the cash machine.
Right, automated teller machine. They'll usually be able to point you to the nearest one.
And worst case scenario, no cash, no ATM nearby. You really want the item. Any backup plan?
It's a long shot, maybe, but you could ask, do you happen to have a website where I could order this? Or do you offer shipping, maybe even international shipping? It probably depends on the store, but it doesn't hurt to ask if you're really keen.
Good thinking. Okay, let's move on to where you might be staying. Hotels, maybe an Airbnb.
Yeah.
Checking in.
All right, accommodations. If you have a booking already, walk up to the front desk and say, hi, I have a reservation under the name your last name.
And have your ID and maybe the credit card you booked with ready, I assume.
Definitely. They'll almost always ask for ID and a card for incidentals, even if you've prepaid.
What if you don't have a reservation? You're just trying your luck walking in.
You can ask, do you have any rooms available for tonight? And then specify what you need. I'd like a room with 1 king bed, please. Or, we need a room with 2 queen beds.
What about specific needs? Maybe someone needs a room close to the elevator or on a lower floor.
Absolutely mention that when booking or checking in. I'd like a room with easy elevator access, please. Or could we request a room on the ground floor? Or first floor, which usually means the same thing in the US, the floor at ground level.
Good clarification. And hotel staff or Airbnb hosts, they can be great resources for local info, right?
Totally. Don't be shy about asking them for tips. Do you have a local map? Is a classic. Or could you recommend a good place for dinner nearby? Or what are some must-see attractions in the area?
And if they suggest something, a follow-up question could be,
What's the best way to get there, especially if you're relying on walking or public transport? They might know shortcuts or, scenic routes that your map app doesn't show.
excellent advice. Now, something that's almost a rite of passage for many U.S. trips, especially outside big cities, renting a car.
Yes, the U.S. is huge, and often driving is the most practical way to see things.
But car rentals can feel complicated. Fees, insurance, different car types. You don't want to get, as they say, gypped, basically ripped off or overcharged.
Right. Clarity is key. When you go to the counter or book online, be specific. I'd like to rent a small sedan for 5 days, or I'm looking for an SUV for a week, please.
What if they offer you a giant truck and you wanted a small car?
Just politely clarify. Oh, actually, I was hoping for something more compact. Do you have any smaller sedans available? Or vice versa? Do you have that in an SUV size?
Okay. Then there are the costs. What terms should we listen for? I hear deposit mentioned a lot.
Yes, the deposit is important. Ask clearly, how much is the refundable deposit? This is an amount they'll hold on your credit card, usually a few $100s, sometimes more, just to cover potential damages or fees. You get it back if you return the car okay. Make sure you understand that amount.
And the actual cost of the rental itself. It's not always just the price per day, is it?
No, definitely not. They might quote you a tempting daily rate, but you must ask, What is the estimated total cost, including all taxes and fees? That total figure is what you need to know. It includes taxes, airport fees, insurance options, all that stuff.
And if that total seems really high, yeah, can you negotiate?
You can certainly ask questions. That's a bit higher than I expected. Is there any way to bring that number down? Sometimes the biggest variable is the insurance. They might offer several levels. You can ask them to explain the options and maybe choose a less comprehensive, cheaper one if you feel comfortable with that risk or if your own travel insurance covers it. But be careful with insurance. Make sure you understand what you're getting or declining.
Good point. And finally, returning the car. Where do you take it?
Just ask, where should I return the vehicle? Or where's the car rental drop-off? They'll direct you. If you rented it in one city and want to return it in another, a one-way rental, you need to confirm that's allowed and ask, is there a different location where I can drop off the car? There might be an extra fee for that.
Okay, this practical phrase stuff is incredibly useful. But travel isn't just about logistics, is it? It's about understanding the culture, the unspoken rules.
Exactly. That's where the experience really deepens. Knowing the phrases helps you function, but understanding the culture helps you connect and, honestly, avoid misunderstandings.
So let's shift focus. What are some key U.S. cultural tips that a visitor should know? What are those things that aren't in the phrase book?
Okay, great topic. Let's start right at the beginning of the trip. The airport experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes stressful anywhere in the world.
Well, in the U.S., it's worth knowing that airports, they often aren't the best representation of American friendliness, let's say.
How so?
You might encounter staff, maybe security, maybe customs who seem abrupt, maybe tell you to hurry up or seem impatient. Sometimes you might see an officer speaking much louder to someone who clearly doesn't understand English well, thinking volume helps. It can feel unwelcoming.
So the advice is?
Just take a deep breath and try not to take it personally. It's often an airport thing, high-stress environment, lots of rules. It doesn't necessarily reflect how people are outside the airport.
That's a really valuable perspective to have right off the bat. Okay, moving on. We talked about restaurant phrases, but let's go back to the culture there. Finding places and the big one, tipping.
Right. For finding local spots, especially restaurants, cafes, bars, most Americans tend to use Yelp more than TripAdvisor. TripAdvisor is maybe better for big attractions, but for local dining, Yelp is usually the go-to app. Download it, check reviews.
Good practical tip. Now, tipping. We know the phrase for asking for the check, but what happens after you get it? This seems to cause a lot of confusion.
It really does, and it's super important to get right because of how wages work here. In most U.S. restaurants, servers are paid a very low base wage, well below the standard minimum wage, with the expectation that tips will make up the difference.
So the tip isn't just a bonus for good service, it's actually a core part of their income.
Exactly, it's essential. So for adequate to good table service, your server taking your order, bringing food, refilling drinks, the standard tip is now generally considered to be 20%.
20%? That sounds like quite a bit compared to some other countries.
It is, but it's the standard expectation. Tipping 15% used to be the norm, but 20% is more common now, especially in cities. If service was truly terrible, you might leave less, but 20% is the benchmark for they did their job well.
Wow. Okay, 20%. Is there an easy way to calculate that? Math under pressure.
Yeah. An easy trick is to look at your bill amount before tax. Take the first digit of that amount and multiply by 2. So if your pre-tax bill is, say, $45, the first digit is 4. Multiply by 2, that's $8. So an $8 tip would be roughly 20%, a little less, but close and easy.
Okay, first digit times 2. That's helpful. What about tipping at a bar, just for drinks?
For drinks at a bar, the general rule is $1 per drink, maybe $2 for a complicated cocktail. Even if 20% of your beer price is less than $1, leave at least $1.
And a definite don't.
Never leave just coins, like pennies and nickels, as a tip. That's often seen as insulting. Always round up or leave bills.
This is critical info. Okay, shifting topics. Transportation. We talked about renting cars. Culturally, how necessary is that?
It really depends on where you're going, but for most of the U.S., I'd say it's highly recommended, almost essential, unless you are staying only within the very central core of a few specific large cities like New York City, maybe Chicago, San Francisco, Boston.
Why so essential?
Because the U.S. is just really big and spread out.
Wow.
Public transportation outside those few major city centers is often very limited, infrequent, or doesn't go where tourists want to go. To explore national parks, smaller towns, even many suburbs, you realistically need a car. It gives you freedom.
Good to know. Plan accordingly. Now, something else that varies a lot and can trip people up, alcohol laws.
Oh, yeah. They can be confusing because they differ significantly from state to state, even county to county sometimes.
What's the main thing to know?
The absolute nationwide rule is the drinking age. You must be 21 years old or older to purchase or publicly consume alcohol. And be prepared to show ID, like your passport or driver's license, almost every time you buy alcohol, even if you clearly look over 21. They are very strict about checking ID.
Even if you're like 40.
Even if you're 60, it's often store policy to check everyone. Sometimes, if you're buying alcohol with a group, they might even ask to see IDs for everyone in the group.
Wow, okay. What else varies by state?
Lots of things. Where you can buy it, for example. In some states, you can buy beer and wine in grocery stores, but hard liquor, spirits, only in specific state-controlled stores, often called ABC stores, alcoholic beverage control. In other states, grocery stores sell everything.
And times you can buy it.
That varies too. Some states have restrictions on Sunday sales, like maybe you can't buy alcohol before noon on a Sunday. And public consumption drinking alcohol openly in parks, on streets, on beaches is generally illegal almost everywhere. Beaches might have specific rules, look for signs, but assume you can't drink openly in public spaces.
Okay, definitely need to be aware of local rules there. Let's talk about people. What's the general vibe? There are stereotypes, of course.
There are. And like the airport thing, first impressions can be misleading. Many visitors actually find Americans, in general, to be friendlier and more outwardly cheerful or smiley than they might expect, especially compared to some other cultures.
Is that the peach analogy I've heard?
Exactly. The idea is Americans can be like peaches. Soft, friendly, easy to approach on the outside. Someone might strike up a conversation easily, maybe even invite you over for dinner quite quickly after meeting you.
That sounds nice.
It is, but here's the pit of the peach. That initial friendliness might feel very welcoming, but it doesn't always mean a deep, immediate bond is formed. They might invite you for dinner sometime, but then you might not hear from them for a month. It's a kind of surface-level warmth, which is genuine in the moment, but doesn't always translate to instant, deep friendship. Don't be offended if a casual invitation doesn't get followed up on immediately.
So, friendly and open, but maybe manage expectations about immediate deep connections. What about smiling at strangers on the street?
That really depends on where you are. In smaller towns and medium-sized cities, yeah, it's pretty common to make eye contact and offer a small smile or a nod to people you pass. In huge cities like New York, doing that to everyone might seem a little unusual. People are more in their own bubble, but generally, a friendly demeanor is appreciated.
Okay, something potentially less friendly to think about. Healthcare. We hear it's expensive.
It is. U.S. healthcare is notoriously expensive, especially without insurance. This is really important for travelers.
So what should someone do if they get sick or have a minor injury? Not rush to the hospital emergency room.
For non-life-threatening issues, definitely try to avoid the hospital ER if possible. Things like needing stitches for a small cut, getting an antibiotic for strep throat, or treating a bad sprain look for an urgent care clinic or a walk-in clinic, sometimes called MedExpress or similar names.
And those are cheaper.
Significantly cheaper than an ER visit. An urgent care visit might cost, say, under $200 out of pocket. An ER visit for the same minor issue could easily run into several $1,000s minimum. Hospital ERs are for genuine emergencies.
So the big takeaway is,
Get travel insurance. Seriously. Before you travel to the U.S., make sure you have comprehensive travel medical insurance. It gives you peace of mind and protects you from potentially huge bills if something serious does happen.
absolutely crucial advice. Switching back to accommodations, we mentioned hotels. What about alternatives like Airbnb for a more, maybe, local feel?
Airbnb can be a fantastic option in the U.S. It often gives you more space than a standard hotel room, maybe a kitchen, separate living areas, which is great if you're traveling with family or for a longer period.
And it gives you a chance to stay in a real neighborhood.
Exactly. You get a feel for staying in an actual American home or apartment. Plus, your Airbnb host can be an amazing source of hyper-local tips. Their favorite coffee shop down the street, the best park for kids, hidden gems that aren't in the guidebooks. Definitely chat with your host if you get the chance.
Okay, let's address the elephant in the room for some potential visitors. Safety. News coverage can sometimes make the U.S. seem, well, dangerous.
Yeah, media often focuses on the negative, doesn't it? The reality is, like any large country, the U.S. has areas with higher crime rates and areas that are extremely safe. Overall, for tourists sticking to typical tourist areas and taking normal precautions, the U.S. is generally quite safe.
What are those normal precautions?
Pretty standard stuff, really. Be aware of your surroundings, especially when walking around. Maybe don't walk with noise-canceling headphones on, staring down at your phone that makes you look like an easy target anywhere. Be aware of who's around you.
What about walking at night?
In major city centers and busy tourism areas, it's often fine, just stay aware. In smaller towns or quieter neighborhoods, it might be better to drive or take a taxi rideshare after dark rather than walk long distances.
Any specific advice for people from countries with extremely low theft rates?
Good point. If you come from somewhere like Japan or South Korea, where petty theft is very rare, you might need to be a bit more mindful in the U.S. Don't leave your phone sitting out on a cafe table unattended. Keep your purse or bag with you enclosed. Don't leave valuables visible in your parked car. It's not that theft is rampant everywhere, but it's definitely more common than in some other countries, so just be a bit more vigilant with your belongings.
Common sense precautions, basically.
Exactly. Be aware, not paranoid.
And one final cultural point, circling back to language, the necessity of English.
Yes. While the U.S. is diverse, English is overwhelmingly the language of daily life, commerce, and government. Even in areas with large immigrant populations, you'll find English is needed for most interactions.
So don't assume you can get by easily in Spanish everywhere, or Chinese or French.
While you might find speakers of other languages, especially in certain neighborhoods or specific businesses, you really can't rely on it universally. Many Americans whose families immigrated generations ago, maybe from Italy or Germany or Poland, no longer speak their ancestral languages at all. So for smooth travel, having at least basic functional English is pretty essential.
Okay, that covers a huge amount of cultural ground. Really valuable insights. Now let's get back into some specific communication skills, directions, and that art form known as small talk.
Right. Essential skills for navigating and connecting. Let's start with directions. Asking for them.
How do you ask without feeling like you're bothering someone?
Politeness helps. You can be direct, of course. Excuse me, where is room 302? Or, where are the restrooms? But adding a softener makes it feel less demanding. Excuse me, can you tell me how to get to platform 6? Or, sorry to bother you, I'm looking for Dr. Smith's office.
I like that. Can you tell me how to get to... What about if you just need pointing in the right direction? You don't need them to walk you there.
Ah, yes. A great phrase for that is, could you point me in the direction of the exit? Or, the elevators. The keyword point usually signals you just need a quick gesture, not a guided tour.
Smart. Now, understanding directions people give you, that can be tricky with prepositions and landmarks.
Totally. Americans often use spatial language in landmarks. You need to listen carefully for prepositions like up, down, through, past, over, near, on.
Can you give some typical examples of how directions might sound?
Sure. Inside a building. Okay, you're going to go up to the 3rd floor, go through those double doors, and it's just down the hall on your left, in a store. Yeah, those are over on aisle 3, near the canned fruit, probably on the top shelf.
Okay, prepositions are key. What about street directions?
Often uses landmarks or block counts. Just head down the street a couple blocks, you'll see a big green sign, turn left there, you can't miss it. Or referencing places. Go past the library, turn right at the traffic light, and it's next to the post office.
And are to more complex places like a zoo or a park.
You might hear things like, okay, go through the primate exhibit, turn left at the reptile house, and then you need to loop around the safari exhibit. Or just follow the path around the park, go past the splash pad, and the bathrooms are right next to the merry-go-round. Listening for those verbs and prepositions is crucial.
This is really breaking it down. Okay, let's switch to small talk. It seems so. American, in a way. Why is it important?
It really is a big part of casual interaction in the U.S. It's basically short, light conversation about non-controversial topics. It's used to break the ice, fill silence politely, build a little rapport before maybe getting down to business, or just connect briefly with someone you encounter.
A social lubricant, as some people call it.
Exactly. It smooths interactions with strangers, colleagues, acquaintances. It shows friendliness and openness.
So what are the safe topics? You don't want to accidentally step into a controversial subject with someone you just met.
Definitely not. The safest, most classic small talk topic is the weather.
Always the weather.
Always. It's universal, non-threatening. Simple questions work. Isn't it a gorgeous day? Or, can you believe all this rain we've been having? Or a slightly humorous one if it's really hot. Is it hot enough for you? These often just need a yes-no answer, so it's easy to start.
Okay, weather. What else?
Your immediate location or situation is usually safe. If you're at an event or a coffee shop, do you come here often? Or how long have you been coming to this conference? Or even just, do you live around here?
What about if you're traveling like on a train or plane?
You could ask, so where are you headed? Or the classic, are you traveling for business or pleasure? People often don't mind sharing a little about their trip.
Okay, plans are another one.
Yeah, casual questions about plans are common. So what have you been up to lately? Or looking ahead, what are you up to this weekend? Or around holidays, wow, I can't believe it's almost Thanksgiving. Do you have any big plans? If you know the person a bit better, do you want to grab coffee sometime and catch up?
And the big one, especially in the U.S. jobs.
Yes, asking, so what do you do, is a very common question when meeting someone new. It means, what is your job?
Is it okay to ask follow-up questions about their job?
Generally, yes, if they seem open. Oh, interesting. How long have you been doing that? Or what did you do before that? If it's an unusual job, what made you decide to get into job field? People often like talking about their work up to a point. You can even ask more reflective questions if the conversation goes there, like, if money were no object, what job would you love to do?
And with coworkers you already know.
Small talk keeps connections going. Hey, what's new in the marketing department? Or how's that big project going? Or do you have any fun projects coming up? Just showing interest.
This is great. But small talk can sometimes feel awkward.
Yeah.
Any tips for making it better?
Yes. 4 quick tips for better small talk. 1, put your phone away. Seriously. Being present makes a huge difference.
Good one. Number 2.
Be genuinely curious. Don't just ask questions like a checklist. Listen to the answers and ask follow-up why or how questions. Show real interest.
3.
Don't make it an interrogation. Small talk is a two-way street. Share a little about yourself, too. Find common ground. Keep it balanced.
Right, not just firing questions. And 4.
Avoid lecturing. Even if the conversation touches on your absolute favorite hobby or topic, don't launch into a long monologue. Keep the exchange balanced and let the other person speak too. Read the room.
Excellent advice. Put the phone away, be curious, don't interrogate, don't lecture. Got it. Now, for something a bit more advanced, linguistically speaking, but really powerful for storytelling, especially about travel, the verbs get to and have to.
Yes. These look simple, but they carry a lot of nuance about perspective and feeling. They can totally change the emotional tone of your story.
Okay, break it down for us. Let's start with get to.
Get to implies a sense of privilege, opportunity, or good fortune. It suggests you feel lucky or honored to do something. It frames the experience positively.
Can you give an example?
Imagine you're hiking in a beautiful place. You could just say, I am hiking. But saying, wow, I get to be here in this amazing nature, adds that feeling of appreciation and luck. Or, after a trip, we got to see some incredible wildlife. It highlights it as a special opportunity.
I see. It adds an emotional layer of gratitude or positivity.
Exactly. Like in that Costa Rica story I mentioned earlier, despite the difficult journey, the positive outcome was, we got to have an amazing dinner at the farm. It emphasizes the privilege felt after the hardship.
Okay, so what about its counterpart, have to?
Have to implies the opposite. It suggests obligation, necessity, difficulty, or something undesirable. It frames the action as a burden or a challenge, even if it leads to something good.
So, using that Costa Rica example again.
Right. We had to drive on some really difficult, unpaved roads. That immediately signals it wasn't fun, it was a challenge they were forced to overcome. Or if you're describing getting to a beautiful waterfall, it's amazing, but you have to walk down 500 steep steps to get there. It highlights the effort required.
So you might use both in the same story to show contrast.
Absolutely. That's where it gets really effective. We had to wake up super early, but we got to see the sunrise over the canyon. Or I had to figure out the confusing subway system, but I got to explore so many cool neighborhoods. It shows the challenge and the reward.
And grammatically, how do they work?
It's pretty simple. You conjugate the verb get or have, depending on the tense you need. Get got, have had, will get, will have. Then you add the word to, followed by the base form of the main verb, the infinitive without to.
Examples.
Yesterday, we got to eat amazing tacos, past tense. Tomorrow, he has to look for a new apartment, present tense obligation. Next year, maybe we'll get to visit Japan, future possibility privilege. We had to wait for a long time, past obligation burden.
That makes sense. Get have plus to plus base verb. It seems like a subtle shift, but it really changes the feeling of what you're saying.
It really does. Paying attention to whether you use get to or have to when telling your travel stories can make them much more engaging and convey your actual experience and feelings much more effectively. It shows perspective.
Wow, what a journey this has been. We've gone from basic restaurant phrases all the way to these nuanced verbs. We covered essential phrases for dining, shopping, hotels, car rentals, then dived into those crucial cultural tips, airports, tipping, alcohol laws, how Americans generally interact, healthcare, safety.
And then we sharpened communication skills, asking for and understanding directions, mastering the art of small talk with those great tips.
Right. And finally, unlocking the power of get to versus have to tell better travel stories.
Yeah.
It really feels like understanding all these layers, the language, the culture, the nuances, can completely transform a trip, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It moves you from just being a visitor, maybe feeling a bit disconnected or confused, to being someone who can genuinely experience the place, connect with people, and navigate with confidence. It makes the whole experience richer.
So here's something to think about, maybe a final provocative thought for you, our listeners.
If we connect all this to the bigger picture, think about how many travel frustrations or missed connections might happen, not really because of a major language barrier, but because of these subtle cultural misunderstandings or not knowing the unspoken rules.
That's a great point.
So the question to mull over is, how might consciously observing these kinds of subtle norms, these ways language is actually used, and these cultural tendencies, how might that open up new connections, those aha moments, or just smoother interactions on your very next adventure, whether it's to the US or anywhere else, really?
That's a fantastic way to frame it. Thinking about your own past trips or future plans through this lens of cultural and linguistic nuance, how could it change things?
It's about moving beyond just surviving to actually thriving and connecting when you travel.
We really hope this deep dive has given you some valuable tools and a fresh perspective to feel more confident and prepared for navigating the U.S. or just understanding American culture a bit better.
We hope it helps you have an amazing experience.
Thanks so much for joining us on the deep dive. If you found this helpful, we'd love it if you'd like this session. Share it with fellow travelers or learners, and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into fascinating topics.
Your support helps us keep exploring.
Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone.